I am so honored to be doing this with you. You know how I feel about you. You are somebody that I look up to, admire, and seriously, is just a beautiful human spirit. So I'm honored to be here with you today. This is not an interview. This is definitely a conversation.
Ashe, yes,
Okay?
a convo.
So I am with you, Miss Ife Franklin, Queen.
And I'm with you, Amanda Shea, Queen, 2023 spoken word artist of Boston.
Okay,
like,
go on.
let's go.
We outside.
Let's go.
But this is not about me. This is about you, Queen.
Okay, but you know, I want to. Queendom is as queendom does.
It is, and it's like shining up the crown for each other.
That's
to
right.
Be able to see
holding the
yourselves,
torch, passing
reflection.
it, not just passing it on, but passing it back and forth, right? Because it is the ebb and flow.
Okay,
Ashe.
I love that. Ashe, amen. We're going to say that a lot during this
yes,
interview. I first want to start with just your background for those who don't know. I've been watching your career for a very, very long time, close up and from afar.
Thank you.
And your accomplishments, your resume is just really, 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 really long and really inspiring. Can you give the people who do not know Miss Queen Ife Franklin a little bit of background of yourself as an artist, as a human, as a spirit in this realm?
Ashe, as an artist, as a human, as a spirit. Okay. I'm originally from Washington, D.C., Chocolate City, when it was really chocolate. I was born in 1960, so I am a child of the 60s, and you know, I grew up in D.C., black in the 1970s, which was the most beautiful time ever to grow up in an urban area. You know, it was right after, unfortunately, Dr. King's assassination and Malcolm's assassination and all of that. And so there was this really big, beautiful uptick of black power and black love. So that's what I grew up in that city and in that urban dwelling. So I started my art career in high school. I started my career as a photographer. I went to
I saw that.
I went to the Lemuel Penn Center in Washington, D.C. I went to McKinley Tech High School. It was like 2 blocks from the high school. That's where I got my introduction into photography. Photography then got me into art school with incredible portfolios. And prior to that, you know, I have been an award-winning artist since I was 16 years old.
Okay,
so I won all of these awards, a Scholastic Scholarship Award for photography. I won the Kodak Award for photography, where this one particular image went all over the country.
Oh my gosh.
You know, and that was happening when I was young. So from there, I went to college, applied to 3 art schools: Kansas City Art Institute, California College of Arts and Crafts, Minneapolis College of Art and Design. Decided on Minneapolis because it wasn't too far away from home, and stayed there for 2 years, and then transferred to California College of Arts and Crafts, which is now called California College of the Arts.
Oh, wow.
And you know, that was really interesting. That's when I came out, and you know, all these other things. So continuing to do art, came out, fell in love, first partner, blah, blah, blah. Dropped out of school for a while, and then moved to Boston. Everything is fast forward, right? Moved to Boston for a relationship, but what I come to realize was that I was here to finish school. So I applied to School of Museum of Fine Arts, Boston. I was there, and I graduated from there, and the rest is herstory, I guess. And then, you know, yeah.
I love, first of all, wow, that was a really quick recap.
I'm sorry, I thought.
No, you're fine, you're fine. That was a really, really quick recap. I just want to pause because you had said photography, and I know that you have been inspired by people in your own family. Can you talk about that?
Okay, thank you. Yes, I will say that the first artists that I ever met in my life were my grandparents. And I don't know if they would consider themselves to be artists. My grandfather was a jazz enthusiast. Like, my grandfather he loved technology. So he had reel-to-reels. He had anything that came out as far as recording music or playing music, the latest turntable, this. He was a big bebop, I mean, there was Art Blakey, there were all of these things playing, and it was a language that I was thinking, how does he even understand this? But later I come to understand that my grandfather understood those frequencies. Like, he's magical in that way, right? And so his understanding of music really helped to infuse my life. And my grandmother was a quilt maker, and she was the first visual artist that I ever met, and she never used a sewing machine, and she seemed to just be able to bang out these quilts, and I don't understand how she's able to do that because without a sewing machine, because I've been working on quilts that I have not finished. I'm thinking, Grandma, how did you even, with kids running around and a husband to feed and this and that, like, she just got it done. So I just remember like laying under these pieces weighted and just like looking at them. I remember running my hands over them and looking at my dress or my grandmother's dress or, you know, and just the way that she would put them together. And I just remember feeling so swaddled by them, so loved by them, because she put so much of herself into them. Till now, to this day, I have to have a certain weight of covers on me for me to feel like that. So I feel like those were my very first influences, and the trips that we would take to North Carolina, like every summer we would go down south. And, you know, I just loved it. I loved it.
What's not to love? I mean, I'm from the South, so what's not to love?
You know, the drive down, the change of the scenery, like looking at the things like this. Like, you know, once we hit a certain place, my grandfather started, you know, people started waving at everybody. And I would say, Grandpa, do you know that person? Grandpa, who's that? Do you know that person? He was like, I don't know them. I'm like, then why are you waving? Because in the city, you don't wave at anybody, you don't dance to anybody. But down south, he was a different person because it was a different place. So I went from one portal to another. And it was just beautiful. Like, everything smelled different. The colors were different. The food tasted different. Like, I just took it all in, and I just loved it. And it just never left me.
Would you say that's like what kind of like inspired you to move into a career for the arts, or do you feel like you just knew you were gonna be an artist from day one? Because you've been winning awards since like 16, you know what I'm saying? So did you know that this was gonna be the path?
I did not know that this was going to be the path. I mean, I was kind of worried. Like, what am I going to do? I don't know. Okay, what led me to photography was the death of my brother. He was 5 years old. I was about to turn 16. He died on Easter Sunday, which was just like incredible. And I was just depressed. And prior to that, I had become the family photographer. Like, my grandfather loved technology, so he also loved cameras. Okay, so maybe that's what, I never thought about that. He always loved cameras. He always had the modern Polaroid or this folding camera that was a Polaroid called the SX70. Like, I don't even know if people remember that. And anyway,
I do.
Oh, okay, cool. So I became the family photographer because I could get people in the frame. I seemed to understand lighting even before I had been trained for that. So that's where I guess I got my first inclination for that. But I was so depressed after my brother's death. We had never experienced anything like that in my immediate family, and he was the baby.
You were saying that in a prior documentary before that your whole house kind of felt very just depressive clouds.
It was hard. He was the baby, you know. It was devastating. And that happened when I was 16. I'll be 64 in April, God willing, and you see it's still, you know, you always wonder, like, what would have been like, etc. I mean, he's definitely on my altar. He definitely helps me through. But that's how I got into photography. That's it.
I kind of knew a little like pebble of information because
That's
I be
cool.
paying attention.
Thank you
So
for paying attention.
I feel like it's the lineage, like it was just destined to be crafting, to be making something with your hands, to be healing the community, to be out here in the community, and to be expressive. It just feels like that was always just in your destiny to be that person.
Ashe, I believe it's true. That's why I'm sitting here now. And one of the things that when people say like, who are you? I feel like this question is ongoing and it's ever evolving. Like even when I'm an ancestor, people will be like, well, who was she? Who are you? I'm definitely a black, queer, femme, elder, hoodoo artist. Now the hoodoo now is the newest, like how the LGBTQ, it keeps getting bigger. Like I feel like my alphabet, because I'm being expansive and like I'm breathing. So the hoodoo harkens to, not even harkens, the hoodoo is the foundation. The hoodoo are the quilts. The hoodoo is the bebop. The hoodoo, the bebop is the coded language, okay? Quilts are coded language because the enslaved people made quilts that told you where to go.
Yep.
So this coded language.
Hairstyles and putting rice in the hair for trails, yes.
So actually, sitting here, I'm understanding that my grandparents were hoodoo practitioners, whether they would say that or not, and they would communicate with each other with those two mediums, which I never thought about until right now. How they harmonized together, how they blended, how those pieces blended.
I like that you said that because that was going to be my next couple of questions for you is like, how did you determine what mediums dictate your artistic practice and which ones you wanted to work with? But it's giving a lot of what you work with is what you were exposed to as a child and watching the dynamics of your grandparents. So is that what you would say is kind of like what drives your artistic expression now and the mediums you use, such as the quilt making and things like that, and the altar spaces that you do put on display in exhibits?
I mean, that's loaded. All of that. All of that breath, all of that. I would say that a lot of my practice is intuitive. I didn't know how to, intuitive and definitely guided by my ancestors. It's not just intuitive. My ancestors are right up front, always surrounding me. They're here in this room right now.
Oh, I was just going to say that.
Guiding, helping folks set the lights up correctly, everything. And that's where the hoodoo comes in. That's where the magic of my African ancestors who became African Americans adapted to all of the wildlife here, all the flora and the fauna, and was able to still create their magic and be connected to their, not just magic, because it's not frivolous. Magic isn't frivolous. Connected to their traditions, to their religions, to their lineage,
to themselves,
to their power, to their foundation. Like they never lost that. And you see, this is what people thought during enslavement. They thought that they had lost that. No, they did not. They were building. They were building for people. They were building foundations for people that they would never see. They weren't like, oh, I'm not going to work for the future because I ain't going to be here. No. Okay, so I'm not going to be here, but let me lay the groundwork because somebody else is going to be here. Somebody else is going to come. And I want to be in contact. I feel like my work is a conductor from the past and the present to keep the bond. Because the bond, without the bond, I'm nothing. I'm a ghost with no direction. Like there are ghosts that have direction. When those, some people say ghosts, but I say ancestors. Like I want to be definitely an ancestor with direction, so that somebody can come and ask me something, and I can assist them because I get a lot of assistance from not just my ancestors, but ancestors, folks that are trying to help me.
Absolutely.
And they don't always look like me, which is deep. But most of the time, they my people's helping me. There's the abolitionist ancestors.
Listen,
okay.
I'm here with you for that because my background, I have Cape Verdean, Puerto Rican, West Indian, and Portuguese roots. So when I think about Portuguese and just think about the history, I'm like, all right, I know my ancestors, some of them I don't always necessarily agree with, or they look like me, or they've done some really disgusting things to people who have looked at me. It's a very, very heavy loaded to try to even just wrap your mind around that concept. So I'm glad that you named that and said that, and you were like, some of them are, they might not even look like me, because that's a real thing.
It is a real thing. I mean, it's so real that a person who is known, I would say, for working with the ancestors, I've never done my family tree. I've never done my family tree because I don't want to see the white people in my family. I don't. And people have done ancestry and all these different things, and then I don't know if it's ancestry, but then it's some kind of way where the people that you are related to can start talking to you and stuff.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm not there. I'm not that evolved.
And there's nothing wrong with
and I'm not that healed.
And
Okay.
there's nothing wrong with that.
My thing is, you want to talk to me, you better give me a check, a big one, and then I will decide whether or not I want to talk. You know what I mean? Just hang out with you? Nah.
I mean, to play, kind of like both sides of it, I've known people who have reconnected with family through Ancestry.com. This is not an ad. Or any of the other things.
No.
Actually, one of the more poignant stories is actually shared with my husband and my mother. They both found their fathers through that, that system. And for some people, again, for what you said, I resonate deeply with because I don't want to know. I know enough, and I have family that I can trace anything back to and ask them questions to. But as far as dealing with that history that I might not even be ready for to even look at, I don't want to know. So for me, I'm okay where I'm at. And like you said, cut the check.
That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to pay my rent.
Cut the check. Just cut the check.
Cause ain't nothing going on but the rent. You know what I'm saying? And my thing is and if I want to know, this is as far back as my sister who's done a lot of extensive work. Now I could probably, there's more databases open now. Mm-hmm. But the furthest back that I know that I can go is my great-grandmother, Willie Mae. Mm-hmm. We don't know what happened to her husband. I know the story of what happened to her husband, but there doesn't seem to be any records. And I know that my great-grandmother was the first generation born free. I don't know who my great-grandmother's mother is. I don't know her name. We know she existed because Willie Mae is here.
Right.
And she was definitely enslaved. So before I know who the white people are in my family, I need to know who the rest of the black people are in my family.
That part.
And for me, that means all the way back to the continent, and you can now do that. So, I guess maybe I'll get some gumption up and figure that out.
One day. I'm glad that you talked about ancestry and even imagining what it would be like when you are an ancestor and wanting people to come to you for direct advice and be able to have you guide them. I noticed that a lot of artists use recurring themes in their work. You are definitely one of those people that I feel like there is a common theme. However, I wanted to ask you in particularly, are there any specific concepts or themes that you use in your art practice?
Black people.
Period. I feel like it's very educational.
Black folks. That's my inspiration. That's my inspiration. And not only that, when I was taking I'm influenced by everything.
Right.
But my focus is my people. And a lot of times it's from the past or enslavement times, family. It could be present day. It just depends on what I'm moved by, what I'm feeling, and whatever I create, whatever emotion someone has, whether they like it, they dislike it, they can't relate. That means that you felt something. So that means I've done my job.
Period.
Right? Because you felt. If you walk by mine, you'd be like, I don't even. Then you.
It wasn't for you.
It wasn't for you. But I guess I've done my job then too. Like, because everything is not for everyone.
This is very true. I love that you said that, because I also am, as an artist, I feel like it should be thought-provoking and emotionally driven. Anything that you're putting out there as far as in the creation world and what you want people to get from that. Whether it be either them feeling the emotion of the artist while they were creating it, or just understanding the emotion that's going to be displayed. And what I find in your work too is that you address a lot of social justice issues and a lot of social change. And I understanding that your answer just now was Black people. Well, when we think about Black people, we think about so many different social issues, social justice that we are still trying to rectify. And so my question to you is, how do you feel your art is fostering social change? Outside of just the displayment and the exhibit of it.
I would say education, history, tradition, culture, and love.
All of that.
And healing. Those are the things. That is the impetus for my work, are all those things that I just mentioned. I want to educate people. I want us to be sturdy in our history. I want us to love our traditions and culture. No shame in our game, no shame. And I'm very interested in looking at, right now, and the joy. It's not that my work doesn't focus on that, but I'm looking at how did our people, the only way our people could have made it through is because they were able to hold on to
Joy as a resilience.
Yes, they were able to have joy. Like right now I'm reading the Prophets. And the fact that two black men could be queer during the time of enslavement, and I know that they weren't the only, come on. The joy and the freedom that they had in that, even within that institution, is everything. It just shows you how, I don't want the word resilient, I'm so tired of that. Powerful. Real. Like they were not able to smash our ability to love. They were not able to smash our ability to see color, to look at, like in The Color Purple, when they say, when you don't see the purple, God get mad, because look at all this beautiful stuff.
Takes me to the cornfields and the cotton fields, and just singing and chanting. Even through working in 81, 91 degree weather and for hours at a time, and still being in unison and on the same frequency of being able to chant, sing, even in those horrendous conditions. I think that Maya Angelou at one point, a lot of her work initially focused on the pain and the despair. And towards the, I would say to the middle, to the end of her career, is there really any end? Because Maya Angelou, I'm speaking her into existence right now, so there really is no end. But to the time of transition, I should say, her work started to focus more on joy. And I do find that I think we're just tired of always being in suffrage or being displayed in suffrage, which brings me to my next question of when's the last time, since we're talking about artistic expression, we're talking about coming from somewhere of feeling, we're talking about how you create about Black people. When was the last time that you felt something, had an idea, and then brought it to completion. Can you take us through that last project maybe, or one project in particular that comes to mind of like, you were like, I feel this, I need to do this, this is an idea, and now I've completed it?
Well, I'm very excited to say there's a few things that I could mention.
I know that's right. There's more than a few. That's why I said one that pops in your head, man.
Well, there's several. I mean, the series of cabins, the series of ancestor slave cabins, life-size.
Love that, the narrative, yes.
That were built, that I still have other ideas for. I'm not done with the ancestor slave cabin series. You know, writing the book, the slave narrative of Willie Mae, having it created into a short film. I mean, and all the different collaborations. I mean, like right now, I haven't completed this particular piece, but I'm working on a piece with Jasper Sanchez, who is the curator of this particular installation for Now and There, right? Okay, so in an elevator pitch, he came to me because because of the things that I do, like the processionals for the ancestors,
yes,
all this ancestral work. So there was a story of 3 enslaved people that were in Charlestown, enslaved by this person, John Codman, who I found out is Codman Square. Okay,
Shut
yes,
up.
okay.
Because as soon as you said Codman, I was like, wait.
Yeah, that. Okay.
I'm sorry.
John Codman was a wealthy merchant. So when they say wealthy merchant, what was the merchandise? Okay, so John Codman enslaved these 3 people. Well, he enslaved many people, but Mark, Phyllis, and Phoebe murdered John Codman. They poisoned him. So, and they were executed. Phyllis was burned at the stake. We haven't really figured out what happened to Phoebe, but she was probably burned at the stake also, because you know, women, you must have been a witch if you did that. Okay, so we're gonna burn you. And then Mark was hung. But the thing was, Mark was hung, but then his body was brought back from Cambridge to Charlestown, and they put him in a gibbet. Do you know what a gibbet is?
I do not know what a gibbet is.
Okay, sometimes on these ships, like a pirate ship, if somebody's being punished, they're up on a mast, and they put him in this thing that looked like a cage.
Yes.
Okay, so they put Mark, his dead body, in a gibbet. The sheriff of Charlestown ordered his body back, ordered that dirty nigga's body back, put his dead body in a gibbet and hung it at the Charlestown-Somerville line for 20 years. I live around the corner from AMARP, so you live in my neighborhood?
I'm in Fort Hill.
I used to live on Highland Street.
I'm on Highland Street.
Get the hell out of here!
What number were you?
I used to live by the Black Jesus.
Oh my God! I swear.
Stop!
I swear.
Stop!
I swear.
Stop!
Yes.
Oh my God!
We'll talk about that.
Where do you live? Do you know? Does Donnie Dixon still live?
Yes, he's.
Oh my God!
He lives on the left-hand side.
Listen, that's how long I've been around. That's how long. When I was living on Fort Hill, I was going to school.
That's why I'm at RCC. Okay.
I was at School of Museum of Fine Arts when I lived on Highland Street.
Listen. Ain't nothing an accident.
Okay, so what was the initial question?
We were talking about Kmart and
fighting into trying to
spaces. Because that was a space that welcomed us, but then you know.
Okay. I have had fighting to get into spaces. I haven't had to do that.
Interestingly, really?
I don't feel like I've had to fight to get in.
That's beautiful. I
have been very fortunate to have a lot of people support my work, like Kathy Battetti. Kathy Battetti was just like in the very beginning, like once I got out of school, like she used to run a gallery herself, and she was very instrumental in helping me do a lot of things, including the big exhibition I had at Medicine Wheel before it became Spoke, where the very first cabin was, the very first ancestral slave cabin was exhibited, along with a huge body of work before my book was published. Like, they let me do whatever I wanted. They let me write text on the walls. They let me paint the floors. You know, Abigail Norman at the Elliott School, very instrumental.
Oh, yes,
She just retired, you know, from the Elliott School.
Are you serious?
Yeah, she did.
Oh,
I know, she did so much.
Big shoes to
She has
fill.
helped so many of us. Anyway, so before I had the show at Medicine Wheel, Abigail there was this gallery on Center Street called the U-Force Gallery. It was small, it's not there anymore. That was when I first made my public debut of the cabin and my drawings. And then right after that, in the fall, that was in the spring, and then in the fall, I had the show at Medicine Wheel. From Medicine Wheel, the first ancestral slave cabin was purchased by the Fitchburg Museum. It's in their permanent collection.
That's gorgeous.
And you know, things just, you know, and you know how it is when you get a win. It gives you just more momentum. You're like, I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then, you know, I started, you know, with the help of someone that I was working with at the time, you know, grants and all of that, because it's not my forte to really, it hasn't been my forte. I feel like I'm ready to do it now.
Good.
To write my own stuff and do it.
You got people.
Thank you, Ashe. So I don't feel like, and when it gets to that point where I feel like I have to fight, I will just retreat, because I'm like, I don't have to fight to get in anywhere. I'll just wait. I'll wait for my opportune time, and then I will fuck you up with my brilliance.
I
Okay.
love that about you. I haven't mastered that yet. I am very much like, oh, you don't want to let me in? We kick it in the door.
Well, I mean, okay, age, because depending on who you talk to about Ife Franklin, they will give you, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is the mellow, this is the 60, this is the oh my God.
Oh, I know that's right.
Okay, so when I was kicked out of that show, in the 90s for my work being queer, and you know, when I say that to people now, they're like, what? I was like, yeah, that happened.
Because it wasn't always acceptable. So
Let me tell you.
Sometimes it's not.
It's depending on where you are. So anyway, yeah, you know, like when I was kicked out of that show, I was like, oh, I called the Boston Globe myself. I said, oh, you want a story? Come and see me. I got a story for you. Because I was like, oh no, this shit right here ain't happening. You're not going to kick me out because I'm queer. You knew I was queer. You didn't even look at the artwork, but you're telling me that it's what were the words they used? Like, it's not destructive, but it's devious, it's deviant, it's this. It was like a collage that had Bessie Smith, Langston Hughes, James Baldwin. You know, it talked about Africa and queerness, but they were not. You know, so I was just like, that was a fight, and I went in. And like I said, depending on who you talk to in this town, there's plenty of people who love Ife, and there's plenty of people that don't, and that's cool. That's just like yin and yang.
Why do you think that is? Like, that people just don't understand it. And again, this goes back to the art, where we're not everybody's cup of tea. Our art's not maybe everybody's cup of tea. But why do you feel that people are just like?
Because my personality isn't everybody's cup of tea. You know, I'm not taking no shit.
Yeah.
I really am not. And thank God that I have more awareness and more self-esteem and more self-love right now, you know, because I would just say no. And you know, and now I can say no. This is the over 60. I can say no and then just walk. Not no and you know, like no. Oh, I didn't get the grant. Okay. Oh, I didn't Okay, let me keep going.
You can't give me what I'm worth. Okay, sorry, but.
Okay.
Right.
Yes, and
that's
that.
the thing.
You know, it's so interesting. Like, there's a big part of me that feels like, you know, I've been doing this for so long, and people they ain't paying me enough. They're not. Like, I get the Taraji, I get it, because I feel like, What took y'all so long?
Yeah.
What took y'all so long to notice my brilliance? I have been here. I live in Roxbury. The museum is in Roxbury, even though they want to pretend that it's not.
I know.
Okay.
We all know.
Okay. Like, why you got to go somewhere else to get a black artist doing this particular type of work when I'm right here around the corner?
Right.
Like, why aren't you paying attention? My cabin got all kinds of write-ups, all kinds of reviews. Where was my alma mater? Where? And in time, okay, so that's me fighting, that's me putting out that energy. And when I stopped putting out that energy, then some things started opening.
And I was gonna ask you, and I didn't want to cut you off, do you think some of that, because when we say these things, like, what took you so long? I've been doing the work. People, when you say that, sometimes they take it as like this egotistical thing, like, why should people see you out of the million other artists that there are out
Because
here?
my light is so bright.
There it goes.
And because my light is honest. And because my light is true. And because of the work that I'm creating. And because of my honoring the ancestors. I can give you all kind of because. And I will say, you know, when I was younger here in town, you know, black people weren't the flavor of them, like we just weren't.
That's true.
And you know, Dana Chandler, who was the person who put together AMARP, chained himself to the museum doors back in the 70s because they weren't letting anybody in.
Talk about it.
So the plantation politics are still plantation. They haven't changed. They have evolved. And there are more conscious curators. Okay, see, this is the thing. If you get to live long enough, if you get that blessing, there are these shifts. And I remember when there was a person heading the MFA, Malcolm Rogers. Yes, I'm going to quote this. I do believe that was his name. And there was nothing happening except Americana this and European this and da-da-da-da. He had it. And when he left, so this was what I saw. When he was there doing his thing, the Gardner was really turning the tide. The Gardner Museum. And this is what I feel like I have gotten more, I feel like I'm getting shine. I'm definitely getting shine from the MFA. And I love that. I love the people that I'm working with there. And I will say that the Gardner really gave me a lot of shine, a lot. And I have seen the Gardner uplift black artists, BIPOC artists, and queer artists in a way that other institutions in this place are catching up. They're playing catch up because the Gardner I don't know what I really believe about the Gardner is that the spirit of Isabella Stewart Gardner is definitely in there. When I go in there, I can feel her. You don't even have to try hard. Because once you go to that garden and you look up, I can see her standing there, welcoming everybody. She had queer friends, she had this, like she was an innovator. And the people who worked there, since they built the new wing and all of that, like I remember when they were building the new wing, when I went to the museum school, they didn't have that. Once they started that, it was just like, and everybody's playing catch up. So I got to give it to the Gardner. I just really, feel like they're ahead of the curve.
I think a lot of that of what you said, I honestly can agree with, because I think, Catherine Morris was also there as well, doing a lot of different work. We have Damaris there now, who's doing a lot of work. They have a great team, and I think the more and more we see, black women representation, I think that's also opening the eyes of the institution as well, because of the things that they want to see and they want to bring in. And because the city has so much to offer as far as artists, what type of artists. Like you said, Isabella was open to everyone. She didn't turn nobody away.
It's deep.
So now I think what we're seeing is like a change of tides, where people are now coming into, okay, we're ending 2023, going into 2024. We really need to start being intentional and being very humanitarian on how we're bringing people together.
How about balanced?
I mean, I love the balance, but let's be real. If that was the case,
well,
it should just be us throughout the rest of the.
But I have to give it to y'all, youngins. And I'm not trying to be ageist, but I love what y'all are doing. I get so much inspiration from watching y'all. And I never think, oh, maybe I had something to do with that. I never think that. I just think, oh, okay. Because I'm just busy trying to get from one gig to the next.
Oh, I know you.
You know what I'm saying?
I know that's right.
So, and like when Oompa and them took over the MFA for a video or something, I was like, y'all better take this mofo over.
Outlawed.
I was like, you better take it over, okay? Like I'm loving this, and some of the things that I love, like the collaboration I did with Portia O, who I've been wanting to work with for so long, Black in the Cradle of Liberty. I didn't know any.
About?
I didn't know.
I didn't get to see it, so
I didn't know any of those people. What was it about? Talking about Black people in the cradle. Boston is supposedly the cradle of liberty. Like, where are our stories? Who are we here in the cradle of liberty? And not just who are we? This is who we are.
And it was in Faneuil.
It was in
Hall,
Faneuil
right?
Hall.
Which is also.
Oh, Frederick Douglass spoke there 13 times. This is what I learned on just one visit there with the cast. That he spoke there 13 times. That Sojourner Truth spoke up on that same stage. You know, like I went there and just put my hands there, right? It was phenomenal, and I met people. Of course, I'm like always the oldest person anywhere in these days, but I was the oldest person there, and I got to meet all these people like Cake Swag and Danny Rivera, Tim Hall. Yes, like I didn't know any of these people, and I'm like, dang, I get to. Yes, Nana, like.
Nana, oh my God! First of all, they're incredible. Like,
like, whoa! I get to hang out with them.
Yeah.
And Danny Rivera just got back. He was spending time. I don't know if those are their pronouns. They were in Georgia, and they posted some things that they did, and one of the things that they did was a ring shout, and it was the same ring shout that I taught them. And I said, oh my God, you better get that ring shout. He said, this is what he said, and I don't even know where he got this. He said, Auntie, we have to talk. I was like, oh my God, Jesus, I'm everybody's auntie now? Like, what is that? Okay, and that's a whole other thing. But I'm really glad that he went down there. I'm really glad that I could teach him something that he remembered, that he went down there and he was like, whoa, I know what this is. Whoa. And that's how I feel about the things that I'm learning now. I'm like, whoa, that's what this is. Whoa, you know, how do I make this connection? But what I love is just this, what I'm learning from the younger people, sometimes I just sit and I listen. Like when I remember we were in like the dressing room and I was just watching everybody do their thing and put their makeup on and talk and use these terms I didn't know what the fuck they were talking about, but I was like on the edge of my seat, like, you know, like, oh shoot, okay. And how people would ask me things like, because they wanted my wisdom. And it's really lovely. It is. It's really lovely to exchange in that way.
You are a part of what is happening right now. You are a part of what I like to call the Boston Renaissance. I know Beyonce has Renaissance, and I'm sure Gold Child.
But there was the Harlem Renaissance. Like she didn't start it.
She didn't start it. But you know, on Beyonce's internet, you can't say.
But she has definitely blown it up.
Absolutely, and I feel like Boston is in that space of a renaissance, if you will. I feel like we were heading there prior to COVID, and I think once we came out of 2020 and losing spaces and what communal like gatherings meant to us and how much we yearned for that close face-to-face and just loving and energy and exchange of energy, because as you know, like being on the computer, that's already a distorted frequency. So when we are in each other's company, it's just a different level of connection. And I love that you said that you like to stay close to the youngins, right? Quote unquote. Because I don't look at you as somebody who is 64. Like, what is age? I don't necessarily look at people and be like, this person's this age. I am basing it off of what I feel.
I appreciate that. Please don't call me auntie. Okay, never. Jesus. I mean, you know, it's just.
Also, I'm not that far away from you in age. despite what people want to think and say. So therefore, I'm not going to call you auntie because the kids be trying to call me auntie. I say,
They
I'm
do?
Amanda.
They
Yes.
do?
Yes. If they're not calling me auntie, then they're thinking that I'm one of them. And
It's
now
a-
I'm starting to realize why they see it like that, because I be looking at pictures and I be like dressed like them. So I'm like, oh, this makes sense why they think either I'm their peer or I'm the auntie of the group. I think auntie is now a term of endearment.
Oh, it always is. It just kind of throws me off.
Right?
Okay, it just kind of, it depends on who it is. And for me, it's just not an automatic. You know, you have to earn the privilege to call me auntie. It's not
Well, you
just for
also come
everyone.
from I feel like a different generation. We were talking about this before too, just with mannerisms and how people communicate with each other and respectability politics, right? And we've moved a little bit far away from that, but to kind of recap back to what I was saying, I feel like we are in a Boston Renaissance where all of the artists are collaborating together. The spaces are now understanding this is what we need to not only make sure that people feel liberated and seen and represented, but we also need this to keep our doors open. With that being said, when you talked about ageism, yesterday's price is not today's price. Do you find that it's hard? And you may have not have had to fight through the battles of getting through the door, but there still is a fight here in Boston between gentrification, racism, politics, and finances, right? So we can't just skip over that. In a space that's so expensive to live. And you even named earlier in the interview, like, pay me my worth. Some of these places are not even doing that. How do you fight against that or advocate? I don't want to say fight because fight can seem very aggressive. How do you advocate for yourself for more pay or even just being paid what you're worth?
I also have a full-time job, and
Wait,
that
you still
really,
work?
yes, I do.
I thought you were a full-time artist.
I'm a full-time. I have two jobs: my full-time job and my full-time artist job. I have two jobs.
Oh, wow.
Most people have more than one job, and so do I. And I feel that that is how that's how I cover my bases. I'm definitely at this point where I want to only do my work. I don't want to work for anyone else anymore. And I studied performance at school with Marilyn Arsom and all these different people, and that's just a part of who I am. But my body is different. To haul water, to pick things up, to squeeze things. It's just the old gray mare just ain't what she used to be, honey.